Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. I'm super excited to announce this video. This is my 23 most anticipated reads of 2023. Now, they're not ones that are coming out in 2023. One of them is, but only 3 of the books are books that I don't actually own yet. The other 20 are ones I do have on my physical TBR. So it is something I consciously want to try and read what I already have and not to keep buying books, but there is 3 that I do really want to get. I'll come to those last. I've sort of broken it up into the categories of what sort of genre they are part of. And these I will put into my reading journal as a little cover of each book, and then hopefully when I read it I'll put the star rating at the bottom. There's a certain challenge I'm doing part of that along with other challenges, and I am super excited. So I'm just gonna say the book, the author, the title, and what it's about, and then maybe a little bit of like why I want to read that book this year. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, the first book I really want to read next year is the memoir, Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. In this, her autobiography memoir thing is part of 6 sections. This is the first one. And it talks about how she grew up with extreme poverty and like sexual abuse, I believe, and her childhood with her grandmother in the American South of the 1930s. She learns the power of the white folks at the other end of the town and suffers the terrible trauma of rape by her mother's lover. So obviously it is going to be quite a difficult read, but I really want to read this so badly. I want to read everything she's produced. I love this woman. I've watched like practically all of like the speeches and things that are on YouTube, and like many like spoken word poems and different things like that. I love her. I love her philosophy. So I really want to read this book next year. And then similar to that, I've got the memoir, All the Young Men by Ruth Coker Burks. And I think Kevin Carr O'Leary like helped to write some of it or put it together, and this is about in 1986, 26-year-old Ruth Coker Burks visits a friend at hospital where she notices a door to one of the rooms is painted red. A patient cries for his mother on the other side, but no one goes to help him. Ruth immediately steps into the quarantined space, comforting the young man in his last moments, and in doing so, Ruth's own life changes forever. So basically she was one of the only people willing to help young men afflicted by AIDS, and she just goes from being an ordinary mother to an activist, and fighting for like the government to help and like with nurses and stuff. And I really want to read this. I've been so like I've been really getting into like queer history and like queer non-fiction books, but I haven't really read like a proper like memoir really that much about it, so I do really want to get to this. And yeah, I love learning about like queer history that hasn't really been taught to so many people. Like when I think back to like in school, my queer history was so bad, like I didn't really learn like practically anything. So it is sort of like up to me if I want to know these things and to share them as well. So it is something I'm very passionate about and something that I'm growing in passion. And yeah. And now I've got 2 other non-fiction-ish books. Not really. This is Proud, which is stories, poetry and art on the theme of pride, compiled by Juno Dawson. And this basically just has a lot of like stories, poems, like artwork, from all different people across the queer community, from lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans and other queer people. This is the list of all the writers and artists that is featured in this book, and it just looks so nice, and I really want to get to this. And then I've got a poetry collection. If you can't tell, I am trying to diversify this list, so it isn't just all like contemporaries or like queer contemporaries or anything. I do definitely want to have a mixed range, so I'm reading multiple types of books. And yeah, so this is Bone by Yersa Daly Ward. It's a poetry collection. In it, I have read like a couple of like the really short ones, but I definitely do want to get to this, and I was thinking maybe like reading like one a day or something might be quite like a helpful way to get through it, and then just have like a sort of like a sprinkling of poetry every day, and then maybe go into another book or something after that. I'm not too sure how I'm gonna go about doing that, but it is an option available, and I am really excited to get to this. I know it deals with sort of like racism and sexuality and like feminism and like sort of like sexual assault and like women's like place and lots of different themes, which I know might be quite trigger warning just if anyone else was interested, but it is maybe written really well and very like captivating, and she uses like a tiny amount of words to tell like a whole big story. And now I've got my contemporaries. Yes, it is still the biggest section, but that's just because I love contemporaries. And I've got 4 queer contemporaries. The first is Emily Austen's Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. So this is about Gilda, 20-something atheist, animal-loving lesbian, cannot stop ruminating about death. Desperate for relief from her panicky mind, she responds to a leaflet for free therapy at local Catholic church and finds herself being greeted by Father Jeff, who assumes she's there for a job interview. Too embarrassed to correct him, Gilda is abruptly hired to replace the recently deceased receptionist, Grace. In trying to memorize the lines to Catholic Mass and hiding the fact that she has a new girlfriend, Gilda strikes up an email correspondence with a kindly old friend of Grace's who tried to reach her through the church inbox. Unable to bring herself to break the bad news, Gilda begins impersonating Grace via email instead. But when the police discover suspicious circumstances surrounding Grace's death, Gilda may have to finally reveal the truth of her mortifying existence. That sounds so interesting. Oh my god, I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait to get to this. And I really need to read more books of like lesbian main characters, because the majority of the queer books I have read have been like male loving, so I do definitely want to diversify the queer literature I do read as well, so really excited to get to this. And then I've got another lesbian story. This is Pride by Leona Story, and this I believe is like not necessarily self-published, but it's not like a main publishing group. It's SRL Publishing, and yes, it's not the most pretty book, it's not that fancy, but it's the content that matters, and I do really want to read this. So it's about 17-year-old Lucy comes out to her friends and family. She expects to feel like her weight has been lifted off her shoulders until her entire world is shattered in a day. Traumatized and determined to push away everyone she used to love, she creates a second life for herself, fleeing denial and her own self-neglect. But Lucy can't keep running forever. So yeah, I really want to read this, and I also want to like support like smaller like authors and publishers, and yeah, it just and it's really short, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to this. And then this book that holds quite a special place in my heart. It's When I Went to Bristol All on My Own, which was like, it was so on the whim. I went there, and I went to a bookshop, and I thought I'd pick this up because I think it was like £4, and it was like brand new, and I wanted to treat myself for like getting up so early and stuff. So yes, this is Patsy by Nicole Dennis Benn. and it just looks so nice. I cannot wait to read this. And they also gave me a little like bookmark which I might use. So it's for Patsy. A visa to America is her ticket to freedom, a passport to the land of opportunity. She yearns to be reunited with Cicely, her oldest friend and secret lover, but her plans do not include her religious mother or even her young daughter True. As Patsy struggles to survive as an undocumented migrant, True grapples with her own questions of identity and sexuality. Can she ever understand or even forgive her mother's decision to leave? Dancing between the jittery streets of New York and the languid rhythms of Jamaica, Patsy is a story of what it means to be a mother, a daughter, a woman, and ultimately a survivor. A passionate, moving, and fiercely urgent novel tracing threads of love that stretch across years and oceans. Doesn't that sound just amazing? That sounds so interesting. Can a new life in America be worth the pain of abandoning your daughter? Oh my god, I cannot wait to get to this. It looks so good. It looks so good. Oh my god, I cannot wait to get to that. I just realised all of the queer contemporaries are female main characters, which I didn't plan to do. These are just the ones that I'm really excited to read, and maybe I should have got to them sooner, because here's another one. This is You Exist Too Much by Zaina Abafat. Zaina. She is a Palestinian American writer, and it's like a novel, and it's going to have like really great representation, and I just look at that, the cover is so nice. Let me tell you what it's about. So it's in Brooklyn. A young woman moves into an apartment with her first serious girlfriend and tries to content herself with a comfortable relationship. Soon, her longings, so closely hidden during her teenage years, explode out into reckless romantic encounters and obsessions with other people, which results in her seeking unconventional help to face her past traumas and current demons. Opening up the fantasies and desires of its protagonist, caught between cultural, religious, and sexual identities, You Exist Too Much is a captivating story, charting two of our most intense longings, for love and a place to call home. Sounds so good. Oh my god. And I cannot, and I read one of the things, I think it says that at different times throughout, you'll find the protagonist needy, reckless, and selfish, but also smart, intuitive, and trapped between two cultures, because as we all know, humans are nothing if not complicated. That sounds so good. Oh my god, I cannot wait to get to this. I cannot wait. Oh my god, I'm so excited doing this video. It's just like making me like fall in love with like books I haven't even read yet, but it just sounds so good. Oh my gosh. And I've got two more contemporaries that aren't queer, but they might have queer characters. I've got Everywhere You Don't Belong by Gabriel Bump. I can't wait to get to this. It sounds so like necessary and like interesting as well. So it's basically an alternatively witty and heartbreaking debut novel. Gabriel Bump gives us an unforgettable protagonist, Claude McKay Love. Claude isn't dangerous or brilliant. He's an average kid coping with abandonment, violence, riots, failed love, and societal pressures as he steers his way past the signposts of youth, childhood friendships, basketball tryouts, first love, fast heartbreak, picking a college, moving away from home. Claude just wants a place to where he can fit. As a young black man born on the south side of Chicago, he is raised by a civil rights era grandmother who tries to shape him into a principled actor for change. Yet when riots consume his neighborhood, he hesitates to take sides, unwilling to let race define his life. He decides to escape to Chicago for another place to go to college, to find a new identity, to leave the pressure cooker of his hometown behind. But as he discovers, he cannot. There is no safe haven for a young black man in this time and place called America. Percolating with fierceness and originality, attuned to the ironies inherent in our 21st century landscapes, Everywhere You Don't Belong marks the arrival of a brilliant young talent. Sounds so, oh my god, that sounds so interesting, and I really want to like read like more like black voices, and I cannot wait to get to this. This actually was placed in another special place in my heart, because I got this This was one of the first books I like got like on my own as well. And then I remember like going out with my friend after, and I was like so passionate about like buying like a book myself, and it was just it sounds so interesting. And then I have got Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. I've wanted to read this for a long time. The only reason I'm putting it off is because I haven't been in the best mental state, and I feel like I do need to be for this book, but I digress. Let me tell you what it's about. Everyone tells Martha Field Frail she is clever and beautiful, a brilliant writer who has been loved every day of her adult life by one man, her husband Patrick. So why is everything broken? Maybe Martha is just someone who finds it harder to be alive than most people, or maybe, as she has long believed, there was something wrong with her. Forced to return to her childhood home to live with her dysfunctional bohemian parents, but without the help of her devoted foul-mouthed sister Ingrid, Martha has one last chance to find out whether her life is ever too broken to fix, or whether, maybe, by starting over, she'll get to write a better ending for herself. Sounds so good. Oh my god. It says the Guardian review, it is impossible to read this novel and not be moved. It is also impossible not to laugh out loud. Extraordinary. So yeah, cannot wait to get to that. Now I've got two books that are like, they sort of like do sort of like thinking back and like sort of like memory in a way, sort of. I don't really know exactly, but one of them is one that so many people love, but I haven't read it yet because I've been waiting for the new year to actually get to it so I can, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is about the reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving show business in the 80s, and of course, 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. So yeah, I am going in this, I'm going to go into it with high expectations because that's what everyone has told me. So it does have a bit of pressure put on it to deliver, but from what my friends and other booktubers and so many other people have said, it will. So I am excited to get to this, and there is queer elements as well, which is always a plus in my book. And then I've got a book that I have been wanting to read ever since I picked it up, but I put it behind my other like books for some reason, and I just sort of forgot about it. I do not know why, because this book sounds incredible. That is At Certain Points We Touch by Lauren John Joseph. I got this at Pride from the Aesop like free queer library thing, but they do like, they done it last year but I didn't go, and like they give you like a free book, and I chose this one because it just sounds so good. So let me tell you what it's about. It's 4 in the morning and our narrator is walking home from the club when they realise that it's February 29th, the birthday of the man who was something like their first love. Piecing together art, letters and memory, they set about trying to write the story of a doomed affair that first sparked and burned a decade ago. 10 years earlier, and our young narrator and a boy named Thomas James fall into bed with one another over the summer of their graduation. Their ensuing affair, with its animal intensity and its toxic power play, will integrate a dance of repulsion and attraction that will cross years, span continents, dragging countless victims, and culminate in terrible betrayal. At Certain Points We Touch is a story of first love and last rites, conjured against a vivid backdrop of London, San Francisco and New York, a righteous, razor-sharp coming-of-age story that marks the arrival of an extraordinary new talent. It sounds so good, so good. I cannot wait to get to this. Oh my god, I literally just want to start reading this now. Like that, I'm so, oh my god, I'm so happy with my list. It was hard to conjure this list up, but I'm so passionate about these books. And now I have got 3 multi-generational books, sort of, I think they are, but like they span different time frames that I really want to get to. The first is Pachinko by Minjin Lee. And this is going to have multiple characters. I have seen the first series of the show on Apple TV, which I think is meant to deal with like the content of book 1, because it's split into book 3 books but in 1 volume. Let me tell you what it's about. Yongdo, Korea, 1911. Teenage Sunja, the adored daughter of a crippled fisherman, falls for a wealthy yakuza. He promises her the world, but when she discovers she is pregnant and that her lover is married, she refuses to be bought. Facing ruin, she accepts an offer of marriage from a gentle minister passing through on his way to Japan. Following a man she barely knows, a hostile country where she has no friends, Sunja will be forced to make some difficult choices. Her decisions will echo through the decades. Spanning nearly 100 years of history, Pachinko is an unforgettable story of love, sacrifice, ambition, and loyalty, told through 4 generations of one family. So good. I cannot wait to get to this. Cannot wait to get to that. And then I've got another book that I also really want to read. Hence why it's one of the most anticipated reads. That is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. And also these 2 are really massive, but I really want to read some more big books this year, so yep. Let me tell you what this one's about. Cast out from home, 16 and pregnant, Catherine Goggin boards the bus to Dublin to start afresh. Once there, she has no choice but to believe that the nun to whom she entrusts her child will find him a better life. The baby is named Cyril by his adoptive parents, but who treat him more like a curiosity than a son. But before this can affect him too deeply, he meets Julian Woodbede, who, even from childhood, seems destined for an infinitely more glamorous and dangerous life. And so begins one man's funny and moving search to find his place in a world that seems to delight in gently tormenting him at every turn. Buffeted by circumstance and consequences of his own questionable judgment, Cyril must navigate his emotions and his desires in search of the most intrinsic human need: happiness. Oh, so interesting. And I very much believe it is queer. Yay. And another book that I really want to read, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. So this is about twins, inseparable as children, ultimately choose to live in 2 very different worlds, one black and one white. The Vigine sisters would always be identical, but after growing up together in a small southern black community and running away at age 16, it's not just the shape of their daily lives that is different as adults, it's everything, including their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. Across the country, the other secretly passes for white, and her white husband knows nothing of her past. Still, although separated by so many miles and just as many lives, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen when their own daughter's stories lines intersect? Weaving together multiple strands and generations from the deep south to California, from the 1950s to the 1990s, The Vanishing Half is at once a riveting emotional family story and a brilliant exploration of race, gender and identity, and the lasting influence of the past as it shapes a person's desires and expectations. Sounds amazing. Cannot wait. I realised 23 books is actually quite a lot. I thought I'd get through this quick, but this video is going to be kind of long, sorry. Now I've got 2 historical fictions. The first is Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart, a book I really so badly want to read. I cannot wait to get to this. Let me tell you what this one is about. So it deals with like a lot of like trigger warnings about like sort of like poverty and like drug use, I think, and like addiction, and like quite a lot of like things, and like homophobia as well. But it's meant to be really, really good, and it's meant to make people cry, and I usually like books that make me cry, in all honesty. So let me tell you what it's about. Agnes Bain has always expected more. In the Glasgow of the early 80s, she dreamed of greater things: a house with its own front door, a life bought and paid for outright, like her perfect but false teeth. When her philandering husband ups and leaves, she and her 3 children find themselves trapped in a mining town decimated by Thatcherism. As Agnes increasingly turns to alcohol for comfort, her children try their best to save her. Yet one by one they abandoned her in order to save themselves. It is her son Shuggie who holds out hope the longest. But Shuggie has problems of his own. Despite all the efforts to pass as a normal boy, everyone has started to realise that Shuggie is not right. Agnes wants to be there for her son, but her addiction has the power to eclipse everyone close to her, even her beloved Shuggie. Laying bare the ruthlessness of poverty, the limits of love, and the hollowness of pride, Shuggie Bain is a blistering and heartbreaking debut from a remarkable new writer. Like, I've literally got goose pimples from reading that. It sounds like it's gonna break me, and it's gonna be really like hard, but it does sound incredible, and I really cannot wait to get to that. And then other historical fiction I've got is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. The edition I have doesn't have it didn't have the dust jacket when I got it, so I can't give you a full rundown on what it's about. But it's basically about like Shakespeare's family, specifically his wife and the children, but he is never actually mentioned in it. It's always like the father or like the writer or something, and about how like when he left to London, they were sort of like left in Stratford upon Avon. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. And the writing's going to be really good. Many people have said that it's quite like emotional as well, and I'm really excited to read this because I've never like I'm never like really like read any like Shakespeare things, or like that, like many historical books all that much, but I did want to put some historical books on this list, and this one I am excited to read. And yeah, if you do want to obviously know what it's fully about, check like Goodreads or StoryGraph for a full rundown. And yeah, this is a nice like edition anyway. Then I have got 2 like alternative fiction, speculative fiction, dystopia, utopia sort of ish books. The first one I cannot wait to get to is an Excess Mail by Maggie Shen King. And this is about Uyghur holds fast to the belief that as long as he continues to improve himself, his small business, and in turn his country, his chance at love will come. He finally saves up the dowry required to enter matchmaking talks at the lowest rung as a 3rd husband, the maximum allowed by law. Only a single family, one harbouring an illegal spouse, shows interest, yet with Mei Ling and her 2 husbands, Uyghur feels seen, heard and connected like never before. But everyone and everything, walls, streetlights, garbage cans, are listening, and men, excess or not, are dispensable to the state. Uyghur must reach a new understanding of patriotism and test the limits of his love and his resolve in order to save himself and this family he has come to hold dear. And Maggie Shen King starts in a beautiful debut, and Excess Mail explores the intersection of marriage, family, gender, and state in an all too plausible future. So that's sort of like the content, but the context of where it's set in is basically about China's one-child policy and its current preference for male heirs have created a society overrun by 40 million unmarriageable men. By the year 2030, more than 25% of men in their late 30s will not have a family of their own. And Excess Mail is a story of one such leftover man's quest for love and family under a state that seeks to glorify its past mistakes and impose order through authoritarian measures. reinvigorated communist ideals and social engineering. And I think there's also going to be some queer elements in it as well. And yeah, so I love how floppy that is. Oh, so nice. Cannot wait to get to this. And then the other like alt fiction I've got is The Power by Naomi Alderman. When I saw this was shortly after reading Handmaid's Tale, and Margaret Atwood said it was electrifying. I was like, oh my god, that sounds so interesting. And then I read the book and I was like, oh, sounds so good. So it's about all over the world, women are discovering they have the power. With a flick of the fingers, they can inflict terrible pain, even death. Suddenly, every man on the planet finds they've lost control. The day of the girls has arrived, but where will it end? Sounds so interesting. Ever since I picked it up, I've been really interested in it, and I cannot wait to get to this book. Now I've got my final number, this is 20 I guess, of books that I physically own, and this is actually a compilation of Oscar Wilde stories, but the book that I want to read is The Picture of Dorian Grey. So this is my classic choice for the anticipated reads, and this edition doesn't have a full like summary of the plot, but I think it's basically about like Dorian Gray, who has like a picture, like a painting made of him, and sort of like he doesn't age but the painting does, and there's like different there's quite a lot that goes on, and it's sort of like meant to have sort of like subtle but sort of like not subtle like queer elements as well, and yeah, I really want to read this classic. I have some other classics that I have that I do want to read, but this is like probably the top spot, so that's why I put it on this list, and I'm super excited to get to it. Now, they're the 20 books that I physically own. Obviously I do own a lot more there. I've just been sorting them out. I have about last time I checked I had 186 that I have not read yet, so yep. But there is 3 books that I do really want to get them to read in 2023. The first one is going to be Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. Obviously I love Heartstopper. I don't know if you've seen it before. I might have heard me talking about it, but I absolutely adore that series. It is one of the best things ever. Such great representation. It's so good for like especially queer young people to like be seen and to have these stories told, and the issues it grapples with is done so well, like putting focus on like support and how much you want to change and like help. Sometimes it's not possible, and like it deals with a lot, but it is written really well. Amazing cast of characters, so lovely. The drawings is beautiful. So yeah, so that is the 5th and final installment in the series. So when that comes out in February, I believe, I do really want to get that so I can read that. And then the other 2 are books that I feel will suit my personal taste a lot. That is Philippe Besson's In the Absence of Men. I have read his book Lie With Me, which I love so much. It's my favourite book I've ever read. I will not stop recommending it until I'm blue in the face. I love that book. But In the Absence of Men basically follows Vincent, who is 16 in the year 1916, and France is at war with Germany. And basically all the able-bodied men have gone to the front line, and he is like growing into like adulthood and adolescence and stuff, and he's exploring his sexuality and like love and like first loves and that sort of like idea, and he falls for two different men. I think it's like Michael is like I think it's like 40 something, like a doctor or something, I'm not actually too sure. And then the other guy, I can't remember his name now, Dan, I'm sorry, but there's another guy that is like used to be his family's servant son, but he's a soldier, and it sort of just like deals with like the time period and like coming of age and stuff. And I really want to read that book, because I love Philippe Bessel's writing, well, from the one book I've read, but other people have said it's semi-similar, but at least as good as. And yeah, I really want to read that. And then the final book on my anticipated reads is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I really want to read this book. Basically it's set in like 1950s Paris, in like the American expat sort of like community, and we follow the main character David, and his like fiance or something is holidaying in Italy or Spain, but he falls in love, homoerotic love, with an Italian barman Giovanni, and he explores his sexuality and their like love for each other. But then his fiance comes back to Paris, and then he sort of like has to like hide it, and sort of like he thinks like, oh, is it just, it'll be safer and easier to live as a straight man, and hide himself. And then there's sort of like something happens, so I do really want to read that book. Obviously I had the last two I didn't explain the best, because I haven't got them to read, but I really want to read them. So I do hope you have enjoyed this video, and maybe you can check out some of these books as well. I'm so excited. I am literally like, when I look at them, it just brings me so much joy, to think about getting to these books. I cannot wait. Yay. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.